Welcome to Blue Talks.
It's great to be at Columbia University with Blue Talks, and I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to really think about that. What is the thing that keeps you from doing the exact thing you want to do? What is the thing that limits you? You have great aspirations, you have dreams, but there's something that is keeping you, it's a ceiling on you. It could be a real thing that keeps you from doing what you want to do. It could be other people that keep you from what you want to do. It might be money. It might be fear. It might be location, which I've dealt with all these different things. But there's one thing that has interfered with me for most of my life. And yet, as was said, I've made a 30-year career of being a professional broadcaster, talk show host, interviewer. If you've seen me at Blue Talks. This is what I do for a living. But growing up, the biggest thing that limited me was I could not speak. I live with a lifelong stutter. I still stutter to this day. I may stutter during this talk right now, but the fun is I've learned tips and tricks, and you may never know that I stuttered, but I will know that I did. Imagine yourself growing up. I have a very active family. We're a bunch of boys and cousins. We're playing football and basketball. We're really cool. I'm hanging out with my cousin, trying to impress the girls. And my tongue won't let me introduce my own name. One of the hardest things for stutterers is introducing yourself. And R's and T's are some of the hardest. So Richard Bontrager was a train wreck. Literally. Imagine yourself, you're in a car, you're driving, and you're going fine down the road. And an imaginary gate goes up, and you and your car stop while everyone else is flying by you as fast as it can. That's what a stutterer feels like. I know what I want to say. I know the exact word and phrase. I'm driving down the lane. I'm doing everything perfectly. And then my brain goes, it's like someone grabs your tongue, and instead of saying Richard Bontrager, it comes out and just stops. Or you get stuck on those hard R's. Now, what girl is going to go out with you? What guy's going to want you on their basketball football team? Because everything now is about he looks like a bumbling idiot. That's what I was told I was growing up. That's what I felt like growing up. And yet I listened to Harry Carey and Cubs baseball. Any Cubs baseball fans in the room here? There's always one or two. But I grew up listening to Harry Carey describe on the radio baseball, the wind, the batter digging in. I could smell the popcorn through the radio. That's how good he was at telling a story. And I said to my parents, I want to do that. And they're like, yeah, never going to happen, kid. Literally. They were part of the limitation. Besides my stutter, people did not believe me. What is it that keeps you from hitting your dreams and going after your dreams? In the world, there are 80 million people that stutter. In America, that's 3 million people. That's 1 in 100 people. Normally when I give this talk, I will ask, how many of you in the room stutter? And it's amazing, the hands go up in a crowd. And people look around like, wow. And when you look at the numbers, it's surprising. But you know what? We don't talk about it. If people have a disease, that's a pretty obvious disease. They have a nervous tic. People don't laugh about it. They give them grace. They give them some room. They show them respect. When stutterers stutter, kids laugh. They come up with nicknames. They bully you. They kick you, they tease you, they give you wedgies growing up. Believe me, I got the wedgie reward. They know how to make this feel very embarrassing. Think of that. There's 80 million people in the world that I deal with. Our President of the United States, Joe Biden, stutters. He talks about it openly. And I finally got to the point in my life, instead of hiding it, I finally decided I'm going to learn to be okay with myself. So whatever it is that limits you right now, I want you to start thinking about what can you do to be okay with it. Because I still stutter. Now, I grew up in a family, and there are 4 main things that probably impact people with a stutter. One of them is genetics. They theorize. Genetics is part of it. Now, they don't understand it. And by the way, there's no cure for stuttering. There's no shot. There's no pill. You can take therapy. But I've interviewed hundreds of stutterers. They still stutter. It does not leave you totally. Now, usually between the ages of 3 and 5, some of the stuttering will fade out. Kids go through an early developmental time. Development is one of them. Family development. Genetics is probably part of the theory. So what were you like growing up? And then those family dynamics. What type of a family did you grow up? So if you have a high octane, high pressurized family, you're going to be a nervous little kid trying to do everything perfect for mom and dad, for aunt and uncle, for your school teachers, because everyone else in your family is a rock star. That was my family. I grew up in Elkhart, Indiana, smack dab in the Midwest. In Elkhart, Indiana, the name Bontrager carried with it heavy weight. My grandfather was a senator in the state of Indiana. My father was a judge and a lawyer. My uncle was a city council member. And then there's babbling rich. And everyone knew the name Bontrager didn't match that at all. No pressure there growing up. None at all. Then I grow up with brothers that are all brainiacs. My older brother, National Honor Society in the top 3% of the entire United States. So when I walk into physics class, after he's crushed it, and I sit down, they think I'm Dan Jr. And they want Rich to come up and share with the class and talk about physics. It doesn't work. So I felt it all the way through my life. So there's the genetic side. My mother stutters. Rich stutters. His brothers don't, but Rich does. But there is something in the genetic DNA. The family dynamics are a really big thing. Trauma is a part of it. Oh, at age 10, Rich went through a burn accident. Nearly died. Rich was born with bad eyes. They worked on his eyes. They still don't work right today. So by the way, if I talk to you, my eyes do different things, I am looking at you, but you will not do it. I grew up with that. I was a complete wrapped up mess. So how did a guy with all this end up with a 30-year broadcast public speaking career, and people now pay me to coach you to shine on camera, to shine on stage, and elevate your brand? How did I do it? Number one is I had to decide that all that other stuff I just described was not going to limit me anymore. I have no formal therapy training. I never had a speech therapist. What I had was a grandmother. Who here has a family member that invested in you and turned your life upside down? Yeah. You had a family member that said, you know what? Everyone says, they tried to put me in special ed, but I tested out. I was too smart, but I couldn't speak. Oh, and I'm deaf in my left ear. So when you talk to me, I'll do this and I'll try to find you in a room. And you can be waving at me, and growing up playing Marco Polo, I always lost. I never won Marco Polo because I didn't know which direction you were. So they tried to put me into special ed. What my grandmother saw was someone who had gifts and talents, but no one knew how to pull it out of him. So I have this wild imagination. I still do. That's why I'm involved with media. I dream in pictures. I see in pictures. Every day is a movie. So she literally would have me come over on the weekends and we'd read comic books out loud. The stuttering kid is going to read to his grandmother the voice of Batman from Saturday morning cartoons, and I would do Batman and read out loud. Superman, Robin, Scooby-Doo. And she would have me read the characters, and you know what? I didn't stutter. I did not stutter because it wasn't me. I was Batman. And that's cool. Many stutters find out there's something they have to do to get out of themselves, to become what they want to be. It's not faking it. It's learning a trick to help you stand up and be who you are. Who is helping you do that? Who's investing in you and saying, I see you, and literally do it? My grandmother never talked about my stutter. She talked about the kid that was going to go up and make a change in the world. Part of this also is I have an immense faith. I do believe in the impossible. I love Walt Disney. Walt Disney has a saying is, I love to dream and do the impossible. He bought swampland in Florida under a fake name because people knew about the Disney in Florida, and he did this under the radar. He bought swampland in Florida, and now where do we go every year? The most expensive family vacation is Disney. He lived the dream. He went bankrupt 3 times, by the way. So Disney had to figure out one of my other points I'm going to tell you. Disney had to figure out what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And this is great for everyone here, for every business. You're a leader, you're an entrepreneur. What are you good at? He was not good with money. His brother did all the financial decisions for everything of Disney development. He found a partner that he could work with, and he would stay in his dreaming and building Cinderella's castle, and he would talk about the 7 Dwarfs. Did you know what he did? Disney would not just talk about a new movie. He'd come into a bunch of the dream Imagineers, as he called them, said, we're going to do a new movie. And there's going to be these little dwarf guys. And he would do what I used to do as a kid. He would be grumpy for a minute and talk about how Grumpy walked and talked and acted and voiced. He became the role. That was what he was good at. You give him a bank account and he would go bankrupt. What are you good at? Stop fighting the thing that you're not great at. I spent too much time to be like my cool brothers. I spent too much time trying to be the smartest kid in the room. But you put me in the art class, and I was a genius. Not in physics class or not in astrophysics like my older brother. So part of defying the odds, part of answering that question of what's the thing that's limiting you is stop beating that door of what's limiting you and stepping into what you naturally soar at. My parents never believed I'd be an actor. The biggest thing that happened to me was, again, that family genetics, the family trauma, the dynamics, all the negatives. I finally said, forget it. I'm done with the negatives and I'm going to go be an actor. So I had the chance to go tour for 10 weeks in an actor troupe. Now, it was a Christian organization. I was heavily involved in my church, and they knew Rich stuttered. They all knew it really well. And here he is applying to tour and be the big bad Roman soldier in the summertime drama. I'm going to be the bad guy, the guy that can't talk. We practice. The final week of full dress rehearsals, I was an absolute mess. It was affecting the other people in the drama. They couldn't hit their lines. I couldn't hit my lines. Literally. This was one of the most defining moments of what limits me in my life. We came out Friday. The director pulled us backstage. We have a room of about 300 people. And he says, if Rich cannot do this tonight, we have to pull the play. And you guys can do puppets all summer because Rich is good at puppets and voices. Wow, that's really what I wanted to do all summer. I stepped out. I hit every line, every mark, every action, every influx. And you could see it with my teammates as we're acting in the moment. They're like, who the heck are you? Where did you go? You're not Rich. I stepped backstage. The director's standing there, mouth hanging open and going, what just happened? You guys have to go do the drama now. He did it. Not only did we do the drama, I became the lead spokesman for all newspaper interviews. And if they ever wanted someone to preach at Sunday morning, I was the guest preacher at age 18, the kid that stutters. One of the dynamics that happens is you begin to become who you dreamed of becoming when you step out and risk and start doing it. One of the biggest things is stop having other people tell you what you can't do and start stepping in what you do. I am a character. I am a voice guy. I love doing what I get to do. Here's the other thing that's amazing, and I did not know this growing up. Stutterers hide. We don't want you to know that we stutter. I don't want people to know that the the dums, they're not just ums and uhs. They're me trying to figure out what to do. Darth Vader stutters. The late James Earl Jones, the voice of CNN radio back in the day, stuttered horribly. He talked about it. He did come out. Could you imagine Darth Vader stuttering? No. He was scary. He was bad. He was intimidating. Did you know that Bruce Willis stutters? And Bruce Willis says, the way I overcame it was, I started to become a character in a movie, in a drama, and it wasn't bad Bruce Willis. It was whoever he was playing, and he could do that. Do you know that Julia Roberts and her brother stutter? Go back to family genetics. They both stutter. Interesting thing about her brother Eric and Julia. Eric does not want to talk about his stutter. He is still embarrassed by it. He wants to run from it. He will not be interviewed about it. And Julia speaks publicly to let people know it's okay. What is limiting you from becoming who you want to be? What is that thing that you said, I can't break it? You've been told it's not going to work for you. Maybe you have a business dream. Maybe you have something where I want to do this and everyone is telling you no. Have faith in yourself. Have faith in you know how to do this. Find ways to get around the obstacles that are there. We've heard people talk about finding other funding, get other support, get better training, get a mentor. There's so many different ways to get around what is limiting you. Going back to my illustration at the beginning about the car wreck, about slamming down and literally someone grabs your tongue and not being able to say the word you want to say. What changed my whole speech, besides that amazing drama, I had to figure out, my brain had so much information. They told me, my family, Richard is dumb. He needs to be in special ed. My dad said, my son's not dumb, he's really intelligent. My dad was a lawyer and a judge, so I learned all these legal terms at age 10. My brain is packed full of nuggets. It just can't come out here. I had to figure out the speed of my brain, the speed of my mouth, and how do I balance them out so they're finally at a flow in a sync where I can get here to come out here, and it was gold. Imagine if you can figure out what limits you, what keeps you. If you could find out where that new sweet spot for is, you can do anything. You can be the president of the United States and people will listen to you. He stumbles, he bumbles, and I do it too. It just doesn't have me cry anymore. I don't run out of the room like I did when I was a kid in school. They don't call me dirty names. And now they call me Trigger. Because I'm fun, I'm light, I'm high energy, I'm confident, and I get to pop off and get paid for it. So, step out. Defy the odds. Do something bold and great and amazing. And watch it go from the naysayers to people cheering you on to the next greatest, best thing. Thanks.